The tender light was dying. The research vessel floated in the cold dark of the violet expanse, far from any star, far from any help. Its hull had 3 large holes in it now. Air leaked out into space. The lights flickered on and off. The ship's computer spoke in a calm voice about how life support would fail in 4 hours. Commander. Yuli pressed her 4 hands against the communication panel and tried not to cry. She was a Pelian, a species known for growing beautiful flowers and writing poetry. Her people had never fought a war. They had never needed to. The galaxy was supposed to be safe, that it was not safe anymore. Behind her, she could hear her crew screaming. The Keth raiders had boarded the ship 20 minutes ago. They came through the airlock with guns and blades, laughing as they shot anyone who moved too slowly. Yuli had seen her friend Dr. Tomek die in the first minute. He was a small creature with soft fur, and the Keth had killed him just to watch the others panic. There were 340 scientists on the tender light, 12 different species, biologists, chemists, astronomers. None of them were fighters. None of them had ever held a weapon. Yuli's fingers shook as she sent the distress signal. She put everything into it. Their location, the number of attackers, the fact that they had children on board, young ones who had come to learn about the stars. The signal went out into the void. Then she waited. The response came from Galactic Command within 3 minutes. It was short and cold. Nearest patrol vessel is 18 hours away. Advise shelter in place. May the stars protect you. 18 hours. They would all be dead in 2. Yuli slumped against the wall. The Keth were getting closer. She could hear their heavy boots in the corridor outside. They were taking their time now, enjoying the hunt. The leader of the raiders was called Vrek. He was tall and covered in gray scales, with teeth that curved backward like hooks. The Keth were predators from a harsh world, but not the harshest. They had evolved to hunt and kill, but they had never faced anything that could fight back. That was why they chose targets like the tender light, easy prey. Helpless victims. Vrek wanted 2 things. First, he wanted the research data. The tender light had spent 3 years mapping jump routes through unmapped space. That information was worth millions of credits to the right buyer. Second, he wanted hostages. Living scientists could be sold back to their governments for huge ransoms. The dead ones were just entertainment. Yuli heard the door behind her explode inward. She turned and saw Vrek standing there, his mouth open in a horrible smile. "Commander," he said, "you sent a distress call. How sweet. Do you think anyone will come for you?" Yuli said nothing. She had no words left. Vrek grabbed her by 2 of her arms and dragged her down the corridor. Other Keth were pulling scientists out of hiding places. A young astronomer named Pell was crying. An elderly chemist named Boone tried to fight back and received a blow to the head that left him bleeding on the floor. They were all herded into the cargo hold. 287 survivors. 53 were already dead. Vrek stood before them like a king before slaves. "Your governments will pay for your return," he announced. "If they pay quickly, most of you will live. If they do not..." He made a cutting motion across his throat. The scientists huddled together. Some prayed. Some wept. Some simply stared at nothing. Yuli closed her eyes. Far away, in a different part of the galaxy, the distress signal continued spreading outward. It passed through empty space, through asteroid fields, through the edges of populated systems. And then it reached the HSS Guangato. The ship was a human heavy cruiser, painted in the dark gray colors of Earth's fleet. It was on a routine supply run, carrying medicine and food to a colony on the outer rim. Nothing exciting. Nothing dangerous. Captain Park Dury was in her quarters when the signal came through. She was a woman in her 50s with short gray hair and scars across her jaw from a battle she never talked about. When her communication officer called her to the bridge, she came immediately. Lieutenant Commander Han Tai-ho met her at the door. He was her first officer, a tall man with kind eyes and steady hands. He showed her the signal on his tablet. "Research vessel Tender Light," he said. 340 souls on board. Keth Raiders. Galactic Command has marked them as lost. Dury read the signal twice. She looked at the star map. The Vela Expanse was not on their route. Going there would take them 6 hours in the wrong direction. "How many Keth ships?" she asked. "Unknown. At least 2, possibly 3. We would be alone and outgunned." "Yes, Captain." Dury was quiet for a long moment. On the bridge around her, her crew waited. They knew what she was thinking. They knew her well enough to guess what she would decide. "Change course," she said finally. "Maximum speed." Tai-ho did not hesitate. "Yes, Captain." The Guangetto turned and accelerated into the darkness. Behind them, the safe route to the colony grew smaller and smaller. Ahead of them, 340 people waited to die. The crew did not complain. They did not question the order. They were human, born on a world where everything tried to kill them. They had evolved to fight, to protect, to never give up on anyone. And they had a saying, "Old is their species. No one gets left behind." Captain Park Dury stood at the center of her bridge and watched the stars blur past. In 6 hours, she would face an enemy with superior numbers. She would risk her ship and her crew for strangers she had never met. It was, she thought, exactly what she had signed up for. The galaxy had a system for classifying worlds. Category 1 planets were paradise. Gentle gravity, clean air, no predators, no disease. Species from these worlds were soft and kind and often became artists and philosophers. Earth was Category 7. The Galactic Council had sent a survey team to Earth 300 years ago. Only 2 of the 12 team members survived. They came back with stories that other species refused to believe. They spoke of a world where the gravity crushed bones, where the air itself contained a gas called oxygen that burned and corroded, where water fell from the sky without warning, where the ground shook and split open, where mountains exploded with fire. But the worst part was the life. On Earth, everything killed everything else. Plants grew thorns and produced poison. Insects carried diseases that could destroy entire populations. Animals hunted in packs, set traps, and ate their prey alive. Even the smallest creatures fought for survival every single day, and humans were the winners of this endless war. They had evolved to run for hours without stopping. Their bodies could heal from wounds that would kill any other species. They could survive without water for days and without food for weeks. They did not sleep like normal creatures. Instead, they stayed half awake, always ready for danger, always alert. But the most frightening thing about humans was not their bodies. It was their minds. Humans bonded with everything. They kept predators as pets. They named their weapons and talked to their ships as if they were alive. They formed families with members of other species. And when someone they cared about was in danger, they became something terrible. The crew of the Guangetto knew all of this. They had grown up on Earth, surrounded by danger, raised to protect each other. Now they raced through space toward a battle they might not win. And not one of them was afraid. Dr. Yumbora prepared the medical bay. She was a small woman with gentle hands and calm eyes, but she had saved lives under fire before. She had operated on soldiers while explosions shook the walls around her. She had held dying people in her arms and refused to let them go. Now she laid out her tools and checked her supplies. Bandages, blood, bone glue, pain medicine. She did not know how many wounded she would receive. She prepared for the worst. In the armory, Master Sergeant Kang Jisoo briefed our Marines. There were 20 of them. Men and women from different parts of Earth, all of them volunteers, all of them trained for exactly this kind of mission. They sat in rows and listened as Jisoo explained the situation. The Tenderlight has been captured by Keth raiders, she said. Approximately 300 hostages, mostly scientists. Unknown number of enemy combatants. Our job is to board the ship, eliminate the threat, and get everyone out alive. A young Marine named Moon Hajin raised her hand. She was 19 years old, the youngest in the squad. Sergeant, what do we know about the Keth? Jisoo pulled up a hologram. It showed a Keth warrior, tall and scaled and armed with a curved blade. The Keth evolved on a Category 4 world. They are predators, but they have never faced serious resistance. They hunt weak species and run from strong ones. They have never fought humans before. The Marines exchanged looks. Some of them smiled. They will learn, said Corporal Oh Seungmin. He was checking his rifle, a heavy pulse weapon that could burn through armor. They will learn very fast. Back on the Tenderlight, the hostages waited in darkness. The Keth had turned off most of the lights to save power. They had also turned off the heating. The cargo hold was cold, and many of the scientists were shivering. Commander Yuli sat against the wall and watched her people suffer. The Pelians were cold-blooded and needed warmth to survive. Already, some of the older ones were growing weak. A young Keth guard walked past her, his weapon ready. He looked at her with hungry eyes. Your people are fragile, he said. Like flowers. Easy to crush. Yuli did not respond. She had learned that responding only made things worse. The guard laughed and moved on. In the corner of the cargo hold, a small group of children huddled together. They were students from different species, brought on the voyage to learn about space exploration. The youngest was only 6 years old. His name was Pip, and he had not stopped crying since the attack began. An older student, a teenage girl named Veen, held him close. It will be okay, she whispered. Someone will come. Someone will save us. But she did not believe her own words. No one ever came. That was the lesson the galaxy had taught her. The strong survived, and the weak died alone. On the bridge of the Guangato, Captain Park Dury stood before the star map. 3 Keth warships waited near the Tenderlight. They were smaller than the Guangato but faster. They carried missiles and plasma cannons. If the battle went badly, they could destroy the human ship before reinforcements arrived. Lieutenant Commander Han Taiho stood beside her. We are outgunned, he said quietly. 3-1. Dury nodded. Yes. The logical choice would be to wait for support. Yes, it would. Taiho looked at her. After 20 years of service together, he knew her better than anyone. But we are not going to wait. Dury turned to face her crew. Ensign Choi Mireille at weapons. Petty Officer Shin Dongwoo at sensors. Lieutenant Bikuna at helm. They were all watching her, waiting for orders. Humans have a tradition, Dury said. When someone calls for help, we answer. It does not matter who they are. It does not matter what it costs us. We answer. She paused. Those scientists called for help. The galaxy told them no one was coming. But we are coming. We are coming, and we will bring them home. The bridge was silent. Then, slowly, her crew began to nod. Marie's fingers moved over the weapons console, bringing the guns online. Dongwoo focused his sensors on the target zone. Yuna plotted the fastest course through the enemy formation. They were humans. They were from Earth, and they had work to do. In 2 hours, they would enter the Vila Expanse. The Keth did not know it yet, but death was coming for them. The Guangato dropped out of hyperspace like a stone falling from heaven. The 3 Keth warships floated near the wounded Tenderlight, their crews relaxed and confident. They had been waiting for ransom negotiations to begin. They had been dividing the profits in their minds. They had been laughing about how easy this hunt had been. They stopped laughing when the human ship appeared. Captain Park Dury did not wait. She did not send a warning. She did not ask them to surrender. All batteries, she said. Fire. The Guangido's weapons came alive. Plasma beams cut through space like burning swords. Missiles shrieked toward the nearest Keth ship, their trails glowing white against the black void. The first Keth vessel exploded before its crew could even reach their battle stations. The ship broke apart in a ball of fire and metal. Debris scattered in all directions. 300 Keth raiders died in an instant. The other two ships panicked. This was not supposed to happen. Prey did not fight back. Victims did not attack first. In all the years the Keth had raided peaceful vessels, no one had ever struck them without warning. But humans were not prey, and they had never learned how to be victims. The second Keth ship turned to run. Its captain screamed orders to jump to hyperspace, to escape, to get away from this nightmare. But the Guangeo was faster. Lieutenant Beak Yuna pushed the engines beyond their limits, closing the distance in seconds. Ensign Choi Mireille fired again. Her hands moved across the weapons console like a musician playing an instrument. Each shot hit exactly where she aimed. The second ship lost its engines, then its weapons, then its bridge. It drifted dead in space, burning from the inside. The third ship tried to fight. Its captain was braver than the others, or maybe just more stupid. He turned toward the Guangato and opened fire with everything he had. Plasma bolts struck the human ship's shields. The bridge shook. Lights flickered. A conduit exploded near the back of the room. And Petty Officer Shin Dongwu threw himself over his console to protect the sensors. Shields at 60%, reported Lieutenant Commander Han Taiho. His voice was calm, as if he were reading the weather. Minor damage to decks 4 and 7. Return fire, said Captain Dury. The Guangato answered the attack with fury. Its main cannon spoke, again and again, each shot hitting the Keth ship with terrible precision. The enemy vessel shook and cracked. Its hull peeled away like skin. Its crew died at their stations, never understanding what they had done to deserve this. The third ship exploded. Silence fell over the bridge. The battle had lasted 4 minutes. On the tender light, the hostages felt the vibrations of the explosions. They did not know what was happening. Some thought the Keth were destroying evidence. Others thought rescue ships had arrived and been destroyed. Vrek, the Keth leader, ran to a window and looked outside. His gray face went pale when he saw the wreckage of his fleet. 3 ships gone. Hundreds of his warriors, dead. And 1 human vessel, damaged but still fighting, moving toward the tender light. He grabbed his communicator and opened a channel. Human ship. This is Commander Vrek of the Keth Dominion. 1 have 300 hostages. If you attempt to board this vessel, I will kill them all. Every single one. Do you understand? Captain Dury received the message on her bridge. She listened to it twice, then turned to her crew. He thinks we will hesitate, she said. Will we? Asked Tayo. Dury smiled. It was not a happy smile. No. She opened a channel to the Marine Bay. Sergeant Kang, begin boarding operations. The enemy has threatened the hostages. Kang Jizu's voice came back immediately. Understood, Captain. We are ready. Bring them home, Sergeant. Yes, ma'am. In the Marine Bay, 20 soldiers stood ready. They wore heavy armor painted in dark gray. They carried pulse rifles and plasma pistols and combat knives. On their shoulders, they wore the flag of Earth, blue and green and white. Master Sergeant Kang Jisu looked at her squad. These were the best soldiers she had ever commanded. Corporal Oh Sungmin, who had survived 3 boarding actions. Private First Class Noah Hiren, who had once carried 2 wounded comrades to safety under fire. Private Moonhagen, young and scared but too stubborn to quit. "Listen to me," Jisoo said. "There are children on that ship. Scientists who have never held a weapon. They are counting on us to save them. The Keth think we will be afraid. They think we will hesitate. They are wrong." She checked her rifle one last time. "We go in fast. We go in hard. We kill anyone holding a weapon. We protect the hostages with our lives. Is that clear?" "Yes, Sergeant," the Marines answered as one. The boarding pods launched. 3 small vessels shot from the Guangdado toward the tender light, each carrying 6 to 7 Marines. They moved too fast to track, too small to shoot down. They hit the research vessel's hull in 3 different places and burned through. Inside the tender light, Vrek heard the impacts. He heard the screaming of his guards. He heard gunfire, human gunfire, the sharp crack of pulse rifles designed to kill. And then he heard something that made his blood run cold. Human voices. Calm and steady. Calling out targets. Moving through his ship like ghosts. Contact left. 2 down. Clear. Moving to Section 3. Hostages located. 30 meters ahead. Vrek grabbed Commander Yuli and pressed a blade to her throat. His hands were shaking. The humans were coming, and nothing in the galaxy could stop them. The Marines moved through the tender light like shadows. Master Sergeant Kang Jisoo led the first team through the upper decks. Her boots made no sound on the metal floor. Her rifle swept left and right, searching for targets. Behind her, 6 soldiers followed in perfect formation. They found the first group of Keth guards in a corridor near the engine room. 4 raiders, all armed, all surprised to see humans standing before them. The fight lasted 2 seconds. Jisoo shot the first guard through the chest. Corporal Oh Sungmin killed the second with a burst to the head. The third guard tried to raise his weapon, but Private Noharam was faster. Her shot hit him in the throat. The 4th guard turned to run. He did not get far. 4 down, Jisoo reported through her communicator. Moving to the next section. On the lower decks, the second team met heavier resistance. 8 Keth raiders had set up a defensive position near the life support systems. They hid behind metal crates and fired at any movement. Corporal Oh Sungmin led this team. He was a big man with thick arms and a scar across his forehead. He had been a Marine for 15 years, and he had never lost a soldier under his command. He was not going to start today. "Flash grenades," he ordered. "On my mark." 2 grenades flew through the air. They exploded in bursts of light and sound. The Keth screamed and covered their eyes, blinded by the flash. The Marines attacked. Sungmin moved faster than any creature that Sai should be able to move. He crossed the distance in 3 steps and slammed the first Keth to the ground. His combat knife found the creature's throat before it could recover. Private First Class Nohiren took a plasma bolt to the shoulder. The shot burned through her armor and into her flesh. She felt the pain like fire spreading through her body. She did not stop Dot with her good arm. She raised her rifle and shot the Keth who had hit her. Then she shot 2 more. Then she found a wall to lean against and pressed her hand over the wound. "I am hit," she said calmly. Still fighting. Sungmin finished the last raider and moved to her side. "How bad?" "Bad enough. Not bad enough to stop." He nodded and helped her stand. In the human military, you did not leave your position unless you could not move at all. Hiren could still move. So she kept fighting. The third team had the most important mission. They were heading directly to the cargo hold, where the hostages were being kept. Private Moonhagen was part of this team. She was 19 years old, fresh out of training, and terrified. Her heart pounded so hard she could hear it in her ears. Her hand shook on her rifle, but she did not run. She did not hide. She had joined the Marines to protect people, and today, people needed protection. The team reached the cargo hold door. Behind it, they could hear Vrek shouting. They could hear the hostages crying. "Breach," ordered the team leader. The door exploded inward. Inside, chaos erupted. 12 Keth guards opened fire. The Marines fired back. Plasma bolts crossed the room in both directions. One Marine fell, hit in the leg. Another took a shot to the chest, but kept moving, protected by his armor. Hajin saw a Keth guard raising his weapon toward a group of children. She did not think. She did not hesitate. She fired, and the guard dropped. Then she fired again. And again. When her rifle was empty, she switched to her pistol. When her pistol was empty, she drew her knife. The Keth had evolved to be predators. They were strong and fast and deadly. But they had never fought anything like this. They had never seen creatures who kept coming after being hit. They had never faced enemies who fought harder when they were wounded. One by one, the guards fell in the center of the room. Vrek still held Commander Yuli. His blade pressed against her throat hard enough to draw blood. His eyes were wide with fear. "Stay back," he screamed. "I will kill her. I swear I will kill her." The Marines stopped. They had cleared the room. 11 Keth bodies lay on the floor. Only Vrek remained. Hejin stepped forward. "Private," warned her team leader. "Hold position." But Hejin kept walking. She was scared. Her hands still shook. But she had seen what Vrek had done to the scientists. She had seen the bodies in the corridors. She had heard the children crying. "Humans have a saying," she told Vrek. Her voice was quiet but steady. "We do not negotiate with terrorists." Vrek pressed his blade harder against Yuli's throat. "I will do it. I will." The shot came from behind him. Master Sergeant Kang Jisoo had entered through a maintenance hatch. She had moved silently across the room while everyone watched Hejin. Now she stood 3 meters behind Vrek, her rifle raised. Her shot hit him through the eye. Vrek fell. His blade clattered to the floor. Commander Yuli collapsed, shaking, crying, "Free." Jisoo walked over and looked down at the body. "Target eliminated," she said into her communicator. "The ship is secure." On the Gwangero, Captain Park Dury received the message. She closed her eyes for a moment and let out a breath she had been holding for 6 hours. "Well done," she said. "Bring them home." In the cargo hold, the hostages stared at the Marines in shock. 287 scientists, survivors of a nightmare, looked at the humans who had come to save them. The children were the first to move. Little Pip, who had not stopped crying for hours, ran forward and grabbed Hanjing's leg. He held on as tight as he could. Hejin knelt down and picked him up. He was small and warm and alive. "You are safe now," she told him. "We have got you. You are safe." Outside the ship, the stars continued to shine. The wreckage of the Keth fleet drifted slowly in the void, and the Gwangado waited to carry its passengers home. The battle was over, but the story was not finished yet. The aftermath was quiet. The Gwangido's medical bay was full. Dr. Yoon Bora worked for 12 hours straight, treating wounded Marines and injured scientists. Her hands moved with practiced skill, stitching wounds, setting bones, saving lives. Private First Class No Hiren sat on a bed while Bora treated her shoulder. The wound was serious. She would need surgery later, but for now, she was stable. "You should have stopped fighting," Bora told her. "You could have died." Hiren shrugged with her boot shoulder. The mission was not over. Bora shook her head. She had worked with Marines for 20 years. She still did not understand them completely. They were not like other humans. They ran toward danger instead of away from it. They ignored their own pain to help others. They were, she thought, exactly what the galaxy needed. In the hangar bay, The Marines gathered to honor their dead. 11 crew members of the Guangzhou had died in the battle. 3 in the initial fight against the Keth ships. 8 more during the boarding action. Their bodies lay in simple metal coffins, covered with the flag of Earth. Captain Park Dury stood before them. Her crew gathered behind her, silent and still. These men and women gave their lives for strangers, Dury said. They did not know the scientists on the Tender Light. They had never met them. But when those scientists called for help, our people answered. They answered knowing they might not survive. They answered because that is what humans do. She paused. We do not leave people behind. We do not ignore cries for help. We do not calculate the odds and decide that someone is not worth saving. Every life matters. Every call is answered. This is what makes us human. The crew bowed their heads. Someone began to sing an old Earth song, low and sad. Others joined in. The sound filled the hangar bay and echoed through the ship dot in the corner. Commander Yuli watched. She did not understand the words. She did not know the song, but she understood the feeling behind it. These humans were mourning their dead, honoring their sacrifice, promising to remember. Her people did something similar. They planted flowers for those who passed away. They wrote poems to capture their spirits. But the humans did something more. They took that grief and turned it into strength. They used it to keep going, to keep fighting, to keep saving others. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. After the ceremony, Yuli found Captain Dury standing alone near a window. The captain was looking out at the stars, her face tired but peaceful. Captain, Yuli said softly, may I speak with you? Dury turned and nodded. Of course, Commander. Yuli struggled to find the words. Her 4 hands twisted together nervously. I do not understand, she finally said. Why did you come? Dury raised an eyebrow. You sent a distress signal. Yes, but the odds were against you. The Galactic Council said no one was coming. You risked over 200 lives for 300 strangers. The mathematics do not make sense. Dury was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled, just a little. On Earth, she said, we have a story. A very old story. A man was walking along a beach after a storm. Thousands of starfish have been washed onto the sand. They were dying in the sun. The man saw a child picking up starfish one by one and throwing them back into the ocean. She paused. The man said to the child, there are thousands of starfish. You cannot save them all. What you are doing does not matter. And the child picked up another starfish, threw it into the water, and said, it mattered to that one. Yuli's eyes filled with tears. She had 4 of them, and they all spilled over at once. That is, she could not finish. That is why we came, Dury said simply. Because it mattered to you. Because it mattered to those children in the cargo hold. Because every single life on your ship was worth saving. Yuli reached out with all 4 arms and embraced the human captain. It was not something Pelians normally did with strangers. But Dury was not a stranger anymore. Thank you, Yuli whispered. Thank you for answering. Dury hugged her back. Always. The Guangzhou limped toward the nearest starbase. Its hull was damaged. Its weapons were drained. Its crew was exhausted. But it carried 287 survivors who had expected to die alone in the dark. They were not alone. They had never been alone. The humans had come for them. 3 days later, the ship arrived at Starbase 7. News crews from a dozen species waited at the dock. The story had spread across the galaxy. A human warship, alone and outgunned, had destroyed a Keth raiding fleet and rescued hundreds of hostages. The Galactic Council held an emergency session. They discussed what had happened. They debated what it meant. And finally, they voted on a proposal submitted by the Pelian ambassador. The proposal was simple. It asked the Council to change humanity's classification in the Galactic Registry. Humans had been listed as emerging species for 50 years. Before that, they had been probationary members. Other species had looked at them with suspicion and fear. Deathworlders. Dangerous. Unpredictable. But the Pelian ambassador argued for something different. "I was on that ship," she said to the Council. Her name was Yuli, and she had once been a botanist who knew nothing about war. "I watched my people die. I watched children cry for help that I thought would never come. And then the humans arrived." She stood straight, her 4 arms folded with dignity. They did not ask for payment. They did not calculate the odds. They saw people in danger, and they came. They bled for us. They died for us. And when it was over, they held our children and told them they were safe. She looked around the council chamber. "I move that humanity be reclassified. Not as emerging. Not as probationary. Not as dangerous." She spoke the word clearly so everyone could hear. Protectors. The vote was unanimous. Somewhere in the dark between stars, other predatory species received the news. They heard what had happened to the Keth. They learned what humans were capable of. And they reconsidered their plans. The galaxy was not safe. It would never be completely safe. There would always be raiders and killers and monsters in the void. But now there were also humans, running toward danger, answering every call, protecting those who could not protect themselves. Earth's children had arrived, and they would never stop coming.